Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday, January 25th, 2024. It's time for Bible Reading Fellowship. We're going to pick up our reading this morning in Deuteronomy chapter 1. Deuteronomy chapter 1, reading out of the Legacy Standard Bible, the LSB. If you do not have your own copy of this fine translation, hi, Maria. You can open up a second tab in your computer, and in the search bar for that second tab, type read, R-E-A-D, lsbible.org, read.lsbible.org. And when that page opens up, simply type Deuteronomy, common spelling, Deuteronomy 1 in the search window, hit enter. Follow along as we read, and when we get to the end of the chapter or the bottom of the page, just click on the right arrow. That'll move you over to Deuteronomy 2. Deuteronomy 2. Posted a new video yesterday. I think it was just yesterday. Let's see. No, it was 2 days ago. Was it 2 days ago? Yeah, January 23rd. Today's 25th. So I think I already shared that with you. So, yeah. Peter, good morning, brother. Well, yeah, the last two videos have been audio. The last one was a conversation with a young lady named Autumn, who stopped for prayer. Did you hear that one, Maria? I think you commented on it. In fact, I think you did. Oh, I thought you had heard that one. All right. Well, here we go. Just in case for anyone who missed it, I'll go grab a link here real quick. There's the link to the YouTube video. I'm probably going to post another one today. I'm going to work on it as soon as we're done here. Conversation. I think her name was pronounced Kaylee. Kaylee. Young lady stopped just to say hello yesterday. Said she had seen me out here for a long time and always liked that I was smiling and waving at people. And so she stopped to say hi. And got to communicate the gospel to her. Yeah, that was the one before, Maria. That was the one before. Got to communicate the gospel to her. Asked her if there was any reason why, any reason at all, why she wouldn't repent and receive Jesus Christ as her Lord and her Savior. And she said, "I would do that." So, I'm hopeful for her. So I'm going to be working on that video today, that video audio combo today. The link, though, that I just posted was a conversation with a young lady named Autumn. Had her 10-year-old daughter in tow, and yeah, maybe you did. I don't remember which one, Maria, but maybe you did. I know you. I know you commented on one of them. I'm just not sure which one. um, so, but the conversation with Autumn, that was 2 days ago. And she was relying on God seeing her heart. She thought she'd be. She said she asserted she had no particular spiritual beliefs, but at the same time, talked about God being her main man and praying to Him morning, noon, and night, and was confident that He would see her heart. She wasn't and would let her into heaven because of her heart. She wasn't arrogant about it. She wasn't boasting about how good she is, not a lot, anyways. But I mean, she was asserting her own goodness, but but she wasn't obnoxious about it in any way. She's a very sweet woman, and but I showed her that her heart would actually be the best piece of evidence against her. So, so that was a profitable conversation as well. So, so So I'm going to work on that today a little bit. Spent a couple hours yesterday morning with a young man, Jonathan, in our church who was in a pretty serious car accident, very serious break to his femur, and so he's laid up. He can't really go anywhere. Most of his family's out of town on a vacation that he couldn't go because he's kind of immobile. So he's an adult, so they're not leaving a child at home alone or anything like that. And So I spent a couple hours hanging out with him. I might do that again today. We'll see. Yeah, Maria, I did get your email, and the picture you sent me was a picture of Steve Garvey, former first baseman for the Los Angeles Dodgers and the San Diego Padres. You cannot really be from Los Angeles and have any age under your belt and not know who Steve Garvey is. So if you grew up in the 70s, 80s, you were and liked baseball at all, you were very familiar with Steve Garvey. And yeah, he's running for Congress or something like that. I don't know. I don't know. I have any idea what his political leanings are, and yeah, so I don't care all that much either. So yeah, I think we're going to get started relatively quickly today. Looks like we're going to have a small group. I'm assuming that the two of you who are in there, well, he's old. He's in his 70s. He's got to be in his 70s. You know, he was. I had his baseball card from 1971 with the Dodgers, and I was all of, you know, 7 years old. Yeah, 7 years old in 71. So, um, oh, okay, okay. Um, yeah, don't know what his plans are. And well, obviously he's running for office, but I don't know anything about him politically or anything like that. So, um, but I think we're gonna get started. Looks like we're gonna have a small group today. I assume notifications went out because Maria and Peter are here. So, yeah. So we're gonna get started relatively quickly. We're gonna read a bunch here in Deuteronomy today. Um, Well, we had four, and now we're back down to two. So it looks like it's just going to be just a few of us today. So I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Um, Pardon me for just a second. I sent out a bunch of messages today to people. Wow. Oh. I'm sorry, guys. I didn't forget about you. I had an interesting interaction with a pastor, and I'm just looking over it real quick. I appreciate it. Give me a second, guys. I'm sorry. This is kind of rude, I know, but all right, good. Okay, cool. That's done. Sorry, guys. It's not like I forgot you were here or anything, but I had a really good interaction with the pastor. I posted something on Facebook about, whatever you win them with, you have to keep them with, and I shared a link about a video, and and the pass and it was like a giant. The pastor was talking very excitedly about this giant screen that they got for their church, obviously a mega church, and and so I posted about it, and I said, "Look, I don't know this pastor. I don't know the church. I'm not indicting anybody. It's just this is just, I think, an example of what you win them with, you have to keep them with, right?" Well, this pastor reached out to me almost immediately, said, "Hey, do you have any questions?" And so I typed him back and talked about, again, look, I'm not indicting you, don't know you. You might be a pastor who rightly divides the word. It seems like the further we go outside of the regulative principle of worship, the more difficult, the more we have to do in order to keep people. Let's keep the main thing the main thing. And so he typed back and said, "Here's my heart about this," and I appreciate. I don't know if I necessarily agree, but I appreciated the interaction with him. And so I took down the post. I said, "Look, if the post caused any kind of offense or anything like that, please forgive me, and I'm going to take it down. You're more important than the post." So so that's what I was looking over. So all right, all right. And again, there's just a few of us here. All right, so it is January 25th today and all day, right? Yeah. All right. Let's begin our time in a word of prayer, and then we will turn to our reading. Did I get started a little earlier today? No. Ah, sorry, guys. All right, let's pray. Father, this is the day that you have made. Let us all rejoice and be glad in it, knowing that you are God and there is no other. Father, I'm thankful for our Bible study last night, Pastor Tyler's dive into um, the story of Ezekiel or Elijah, rather, story of Elijah and his dealing with the prophets of Baal, and how after God did that extraordinary thing, he ran away, and God asked him, "Elijah, what are you doing here? How soon you forget what I've done? Why are you anxious? Why are you worried? Didn't you see I did all of this? And do you not think I can protect you here?" And one of the things that Pastor Tyler brought out was the fact that God could have just hammered Elijah for his unbelief, for his disobedience, after all he had shown him. But instead, he spoke to him through a still small voice, and he provided for him, and he cared for him. What a gracious, loving, compassionate, patient God you are. I thank you, Father. I thank you that you're all of that and more. Father, as we turn to your word now, I pray, Father, that you would help us to focus our hearts and our minds, focus our attention on the reading of your word. Lord, that you would indeed bless the reading of your word this morning. And that, Father, your still small voice would speak to us from the pages of your word. That you would comfort us if we need comfort, that you would encourage us if we need encouragement, that you would Chastise us if we need chastisement, correction if we need correction, that you would be who you perfectly are, our Father in heaven, and that we would love you as our Father, knowing that you love us as your children. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. All right. Spurgeon's morning devotion for today is drawn from Isaiah 63:7, which reads, I will mention the loving kindness of the Lord and the praises of the Lord, according to all that the Lord hath bestowed on us. And canst thou do this? Are there no mercies which thou hast experienced? What though thou art gloomy now? What though thou art gloomy now? Canst thou forget that blessed hour when Jesus met thee and said, Come unto me? Canst thou not remember that rapturous moment when he snapped thy fetters, dashed thy chains to the earth, and said, I came to break thy bonds and set thee free? Or if the love of thine espousals be forgotten, there must surely be some precious milestone against the road of life, not quite grown over with moss, on which thou canst read a happy memorial of his mercy towards thee. What didst thou never have? What didst thou never have a sickness like that which thou art suffering now? And did he not restore thee? Wert thou never poor before, and did he not supply thy wants? Wast thou never in straits before, and did he not deliver thee? Arise, go to the river of thine experience, and pull up a few bulrushes, and plait them into an ark, wherein thine infant faith may float safely on the stream. Forget not what thy God has done for thee. Turn over the book of thy remembrance, and consider the days of old. Canst thou not remember the hill Mizar? Did the Lord never meet with thee at Hermon? Hast thou never climbed the delectable mountains? Hast thou never been helped in time of need? Nay, I know thou hast. Go back, then, a little way to the choice mercies of yesterday. And though all may be dark now, light up the lamps of the past. They shall glitter through the darkness, and thou shalt trust in the Lord till the day break and the shadows flee away. Remember, O Lord, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindnesses, for they have been ever of old. Wow. That was beautiful. That was amazing. All right. Turning our attention now to Deuteronomy chapter 1, God's word tells us this. These are the words which Moses spoke to all Israel across the Jordan in the wilderness in the Arabah opposite Suph, between Paran and Tophel and Laban and Hazeroth and Dizahab. It is 11 days' journey from Horeb by the way of Mount Seir to Kadesh Barnea. Now it happened in the 40th year, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses spoke to the children of Israel according to all that Yahweh had commanded him to give to them, after he had struck down Sihon, the king of the Amorites, who lived in Heshbon, and Og, the king of Bashan, who lived in Ashtaroth and Edrei. Across the Jordan in the land of Moab, Moses undertook to expound this law, saying, Yahweh our God spoke to us at Horeb, saying, You have stayed long enough at this mountain. Turn and set out and go to the hill country of the Amorites, and to all their neighbors in the Arabah, in the hill country, and in the Shephelah, and in the Negev, and by the sea coast, the land of the Canaanites, and Lebanon, as far as the great river, the river Euphrates. See, I have given over the land before you. Go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to give to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to them and to their seed after them. And I spoke to you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear the burden of you alone. Yahweh your God has multiplied you, and behold, you are this day like the stars of heaven in number. May Yahweh, the God of your fathers, increase you 1,000-fold more than you are, and bless you, just as he has promised you. How can I alone bear the load and burden of you and your strife? Choose wise and understanding and experienced men from your tribes, and I will appoint them as your heads. Then you answered me and said, The thing which you have said to do is good. So I took the heads of your tribes, wise and experienced men, and gave them as heads over you, leaders of thousands and of hundreds, of fifties and of tens, and officers for your tribes. Then I commanded your judges at that time, saying, Hear the cases between your brothers, and judge righteously between a man and his brother or the sojourner who is with him. You shall not show partiality in judgment. You shall hear the small and the great alike. You shall not fear man, for the judgment is God's. The case that is too hard for you, you shall bring to me, and I will hear it. And I commanded you at that time all the things that you should do. Then we set out from Horeb and went through all the great and fearsome wilderness, which you saw on the way to the hill country of the Amorites, just as Yahweh our God had commanded us. And we came to Kadesh Barnea. And I said to you, you have come to the hill country of the Amorites, which Yahweh our God is about to give us. See, Yahweh your God has given over the land before you. Go up, take possession, as Yahweh, the God of your fathers, has spoken to you. Do not fear or be dismayed. Then all of you came near to me and said, let us send men back before us, that they may search out the land for us and bring back to us word of the way by which we should go up and the cities which we shall enter. And the thing was good in my sight. And I took 12 of your men, 1 man for each tribe. Then they turned and went up into the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and spied it out. Then they took some of the fruit of the land in their hands and brought it down to us, and they brought word back to us and said, it is a good land which Yahweh our God is about to give us. Yet you were not willing to go up, but rebelled against the command of Yahweh your God, and you grumbled in your tents and said, because Yahweh hates us, he has brought us out of the land of Egypt to give us into the hand of the Amorites to destroy us. Where can we go up? Our brothers have made our hearts melt, saying, the people are bigger and taller than we. The cities are larger and fortified to heaven. And moreover, we saw the sons of the Anakim there. Then I said to you, do not be in dread, nor fear them. Yahweh your God, who goes before you, who will himself fight on your behalf, just as he did for you in Egypt before your eyes and in the wilderness, where you saw how Yahweh your God carried you, just as a man carries his son, in all the way which you have walked until you came to this place. But for all this, you did not believe Yahweh your God, who goes before you on your way to spy out a place for you to encamp in fire by night and cloud by day to show you the way in which you should go. Then Yahweh heard the sound of your words, and he was angry and swore an oath, saying, not one of these men, this evil generation, shall see the good land which I swore to give your fathers. Except Caleb, the son of Jephunneh, he shall see it. And to him and to his sons I will give the land on which he has set foot, because he has followed Yahweh fully. Yahweh was angry with me also on your account, saying, not even you shall enter there. Joshua the son of Nun, who stands before you, he shall enter there. Strengthen him, for he will cause Israel to inherit it. Moreover, your little ones, who you said would become plunder, and your sons, who this day have no knowledge of good or evil, shall enter there, and I will give it to them, and they shall possess it. But as for you, turn around and set out for the wilderness by way of the Red Sea. Then you said to me, we have sinned against Yahweh. We will indeed go up and fight, just as Yahweh our God commanded us. And every man of you girded on his weapons of war and regarded it as easy to go up into the hill country. And Yahweh said to me, say to them, do not go up and do not fight, for I am not among you, so that you are not defeated before your enemies. So I spoke to you, but you would not listen. Instead, you rebelled against the command of Yahweh and acted presumptuously and went up into the hill country. And the Amorites who lived in that hill country came out to meet you and pursued you as bees do, and crushed you from Zair to Hormah. Then you returned and wept before Yahweh, but Yahweh did not listen to your voice, nor give ear to you. So you remained in Kadesh many days, according to the days that you remained there. Chapter 2. Then we turned and set out for the wilderness by the way to the Red Sea, as Yahweh spoke to me, and circled Mount Seir for many days. And Yahweh spoke to me, saying, you have circled this mountain long enough, now turn north, and command the people, saying, you are going to pass through the territory of your brothers, the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, and they will be afraid of you. So be very careful. Do not provoke them, for I will not give you any of their land, even as little as a footstep, because I have given Mount Seir to Esau as possession. You shall not buy food from them with money, so that you may eat, and you shall also bargain with them for water with money, so that you may drink. For Yahweh your God has blessed you in all the work of your hand. He has known your wanderings through this great wilderness. These 40 years Yahweh your God has been with you. You have not lacked a thing. So we passed beyond our brothers, the sons of Esau, who lived in Seir, away from the Arabah road, away from Elath and from Ezion Geber. And we turned and passed through by the way of the wilderness of Moab. Then Yahweh said to me, do not harass Moab, nor provoke them to war rather. For I will not give you any of their land as a possession, because I have given Ar to the sons of Lot as a possession. The Amim lived there formerly, a people as great, numerous, and tall as the Anakim. Like the Anakim, they are also regarded as Rephaim, but the Moabites call them Emim. Now the Horites formerly lived in Seir, but the sons of Esau dispossessed them and destroyed them from before them and settled in their place, just as Israel would do to the land of their possession, which Yahweh gave to them. Now arise and cross over the brook Zered yourselves. So we crossed over the brook Zered. Now the time that it took for us to come from Kadesh Barnea until we crossed over the brook Zered was 38 years, until all the generation of the men of war came to an end from within the camp, as Yahweh had sworn to them. Moreover, the hand of Yahweh was against them to bring them into confusion from within the camp until they all came to an end. So it happened, when all the men of war had come to an end in death from among the people, that Yahweh spoke to me, saying, today you are about to cross over Ar, the border of Moab, and you will come opposite the sons of Ammon. Do not harass them nor provoke them, for I will not give you any of the land of the sons of Ammon as a possession, because I have given it to the sons of Lot as a possession. It is also regarded as the land of the Rephaim, for Rephaim formerly lived in it, but the Ammonites called them Zamzumin, a people as great, numerous, and tall as the Anakim, but Yahweh destroyed them before them, and they dispossessed them and settled in their place, just as he did for the sons of Esau, who live in Seir, when he destroyed the Horites from before them. They dispossessed them and settled in their place even to this day. And the Avim, who lived in villages as far as Gaza, the Caphtorim, who came from Caphtor, destroyed them and lived in their place. Arise, set out, and pass through the valley of Arnon. Look, I have given Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and his land into your hand. Begin to take possession and provoke him to battle. This day I will begin to put the dread and fear of you upon the people everywhere under the heavens, who, when they hear the report of you, will tremble and be in anguish because of you. So I sent messengers from the wilderness of Kedemoth to Sihon, king of Heshbon, with words of peace, saying, let me pass through your land. I will go only on the highway. I will not turn aside to the right or to the left. You will sell me food for money, so that I may eat, and give me water for money, so that I may drink. Only let me pass through on foot, just as the sons of Esau who lived in Seir and the Moabites who lived in Ar did for me, until I cross over the Jordan into the land which Yahweh our God is giving to us. But Sihon, king of Heshbon, was not willing for us to pass through his land, for Yahweh your God stiffened his spirit and made his heart obstinate, in order to give him over into your hand as he is today. And Yahweh said to me, see, I have begun to give Sihon and his land over to you. Begin to possess, so that you may fully possess his land. Then Sihon with all his people came out to meet us in battle at Jahaz. But Yahweh our God gave him over to us, and we struck him down with his sons and all his people. So we captured all the cities at that time and devoted to destruction the men, women, and little ones of every city. We left no survivor remaining. We took only the animals as our plunder, and the spoil of the cities which we had captured. From Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, and from the city which is in the valley even to Gilead, there was not a town that was too high for us. Yahweh our God gave all over to us. Only you did not go near to the land of the sons of Ammon, all along the river Jabbok and in the cities of the hill country, and wherever Yahweh our God had commanded us. Chapter 3. Then we turned and went up to the road to Bashan, and Og, king of Bashan, with all his people, came out to meet us in battle at Edrei. But Yahweh said to me, do not fear him, for I have given him and all his people and his land over into your hand, and you shall do to him just as you did to Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon. So Yahweh our God also gave Og, king of Bashan, with all his people over into our hand, and we struck them until there was no survivor remaining for him, and we captured all his cities at that time. There was not a town which we did not take from them, 60 cities, all the region of Argob, the kingdom of Og and Bashan. All these were cities fortified with high walls, gates, and bars, besides a great many unwalled towns. And we devoted them to destruction, as we did to Sihon, king of Heshbon, devoting to destruction the men, women, and little ones of every city. But all the animals and the spoil of the cities we took as our plunder. Thus we took the land at the time from the hand of the two kings of the Amorites who were beyond the Jordan, from the valley of Arnon to Mount Hermon. Sidonians call Hermon Sirion, and the Amorites call it Senir. All the cities of the plateau, and all Gilead, and all Bashan, as far as Salakah and Edrei, cities of the kingdom of Og and Bashan. For only Og, king of Bashan, remained of the remnant of the Rephaim. Behold, his bedstead was an iron bedstead. It is in Rabbah of the sons of Ammon. Its length was 9 cubits. That's 13.5 feet. And its width, 4 cubits. That's 6 feet, I think. Cubit and a half. Yeah. By ordinary cubit. So we took possession of this land at that time from Aroer, which is by the valley of Arnon, and half the hill country of Gilead and its cities I gave to the Reubenites and to the Gadites, and the rest of Gilead and all Bashan. The kingdom of Og I gave to the half tribe of Manasseh, all the region of Argob. Concerning all Bashan, it is called the land of Rephaim. Jair, the son of Manasseh, took all the region of Argob, as far as the border of the Geshurites and the Maacathites, and called it, that is Bashan, after his own name, Havoth Jair, as it is to this day. And to Machir I gave Gilead. And to the Reubenites and to the Gadites I gave from Gilead, even as far as the valley of Arnon, the middle of the valley as a border, and as far as the river Jabbok, the border of the sons of Ammon. The Arabah also, with the Jordan as a border, from Chinnereth, even as far as the sea of the Arabah, the salt sea, at the foot of the slopes of Pisgah on the east. Then I commanded you at that time, saying, Yahweh your God has given you this land to possess it. All you men of valor shall cross over, armed before your brothers, the sons of Israel. But your wives and your little ones and your livestock, I know that you have much livestock, shall remain in your cities which I have given you, until Yahweh gives rest to your brothers as to you. And they also possess the land which Yahweh your God will give them beyond the Jordan. Then you may return every man to his possession which I have given you. And I commanded Joshua at that time, saying, Your eyes have seen all that Yahweh your God has done to these two kings. So Yahweh shall do to all the kingdoms into which you are about to cross. Do not fear them, for Yahweh your God is the one fighting for you. I also pleaded with Yahweh at that time, saying, O Lord Yahweh, you have begun to show your slave your greatness and your strong hand. For what God is there in heaven or on earth who can do such works and mighty acts as yours? Let me, I pray, cross over and see the good land that is beyond the Jordan, that good hill country in Lebanon. But Yahweh was angry with me on your account and would not listen to me. And Yahweh said to me, Enough! Speak to me no more of this matter. Go up to the top of Pisgah and lift up your eyes to the west and north and south and east, and see it with your eyes, for you shall not cross over this Jordan. But command Joshua and strengthen him and encourage him, for he shall go across at the head of this people, and he will cause them to inherit the land which you will see. So we remained in the valley opposite Beth Peor. Chapter 4. Hey, good morning, Chris. So now, O Israel, listen to the statutes and the judgments which I am teaching you to do, so that you may live and go in and take possession of the land which Yahweh, the God of your fathers, is giving you. You shall not add to the word which I am commanding you, nor take away from it, that you may keep the commandments of Yahweh your God, which I am commanding you. Your eyes have seen what Yahweh has done in the case of Baal Peor. For all the men who walked after Baal Peor, Yahweh your God has destroyed them from among you. But you who clung to Yahweh your God are alive today, every one of you. See, I have taught you statutes and judgments, just as Yahweh my God commanded me, that you should do thus in the land where you are entering to possess it. You shall keep and do them, for that is your wisdom and your understanding in the sight of the peoples, who will hear all these statutes and say, Surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what great nation is there that has a God so near to it as is Yahweh our God whenever we call on him? Or what great nation is there that has statutes and judgments as righteous as this whole law, which I am setting before you today? Only keep yourself and keep your soul very carefully, lest you forget the things which your eyes have seen, and lest they depart from your heart all the days of your life. But make them known to your sons and to your grandsons. Remember the day you stood before Yahweh your God at Horeb, when Yahweh said to me, Assemble the people to me, that I may cause them to hear my word, so that they may learn to fear me all the days they live on the earth, and that they may teach their children. And you came near and stood at the foot of the mountain. And the mountain burned with fire to the very heart of the heavens, darkness, cloud, and dense gloom. Then Yahweh spoke to you from the midst of the fire. You heard the sound of words, but you saw no form, only a voice. So he declared to you his covenant, which he commanded you to do, that is, the 10 Commandments, and he wrote them on 2 tablets of stone. And Yahweh commanded me at that time to teach you statutes and judgments, that you might do them in the land where you are going over to possess it. So keep your souls very carefully, since you did not see any form on the day Yahweh spoke to you at Horeb from the midst of the fire, lest you act corruptly and make a graven image for yourselves in the form of any figure, the likeness of male or female, the likeness of any animal that is on the earth, the likeness of any winged bird that flies in the sky, the likeness of anything that creeps on the ground, the likeness of any fish that is in the water below the earth. And lest you lift up your eyes to heaven and see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the host of heaven, and be drawn away and worship them and serve them, those which Yahweh your God has apportioned for all the peoples under the whole heaven. But Yahweh has taken you and brought you out of the iron furnace from Egypt to be a people for his own inheritance as today. Now Yahweh was angry with me on your account and swore that I would not cross the Jordan, and that I would not enter the good land which Yahweh your God is giving you as an inheritance. For I will die in this land. I shall not cross the Jordan, but you shall cross and take possession of this good land. So keep yourselves, lest you forget the covenant of Yahweh your God, which he cut with you, and make for yourselves a graven image in the form of anything against which Yahweh your God has commanded you. For Yahweh your God is a consuming fire, a jealous God. When you become the father of children and children's children, and remain long in the land, and act corruptly, and make a graven image in the form of anything, and do that which is evil in the sight of Yahweh your God, so as to provoke him to anger, I call heaven and earth to witness against you today, that you will surely perish quickly from the land where you are going over the Jordan to possess it. You shall not prolong your days on it, but will be utterly destroyed. And Yahweh will scatter you among the peoples, and you will remain few in number among the nations where Yahweh drives you. And there you will serve gods, the works of man's hands, wood and stone, which neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But from there you will seek Yahweh your God, and you will find him, for you will search for him with all your heart and all your soul. When you are in distress and all these things have come upon you, in the last days you will return to Yahweh your God and listen to his voice. For Yahweh your God is a compassionate God. He will not fail you, nor destroy you, nor forget the covenant with your fathers, which he swore to them. Indeed, ask now concerning the former days which were before you, since the day that God created man on the earth, and inquire from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything been done like this great thing? Or has anything been heard like it? Has any people heard the voice of God speaking from the midst of the fire, as you have heard it and lived? Or has a God tried to go to take for himself a nation from within another nation with trials, with signs and wonders, and with war, and with a mighty hand, and with an outstretched arm, and with great terrors, as Yahweh your God did for you in Egypt before your eyes? To you it was shown that you might know that Yahweh, he is God. There is no other besides him. Out of the heavens he caused you to hear his voice to discipline you, and on earth he caused you to see his great fire, and you heard his words from the midst of the fire. Because he loved your fathers, therefore he chose their seed after them, and he personally brought you from Egypt by his great power, dispossessing before you nations greater and mightier than you, to bring you in and to give you their land for an inheritance as it is today. Know therefore today, and take it to your heart, that Yahweh, he is God in heaven above and on earth below. There is no other. So you shall keep his statutes and his commandments, which I am commanding you today, that it may go well with you and with your children after you, and that you may prolong your days on the land which Yahweh your God is giving you for all the days. Then Moses set apart 3 cities across the Jordan to the east toward the sunrise, that a manslayer might flee there, who slew his neighbor without premeditation, not hating him previously, so he shall flee to one of these cities, that he might live. Bezer in the wilderness on the plateau for the Reubenites, and Ramoth and Gilead for the Gadites, and Golan and Bashan for the Manassites. Now this is the law which Moses set before the sons of Israel, These are the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments which Moses spoke to the sons of Israel when they came out from Egypt and crossed the Jordan in the valley opposite Beth Peor, in the land of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who lived at Heshbon, whom Moses and the sons of Israel struck down when they came out from Egypt. And they took possession of his land and the land of Og, king of Bashan, the two kings of the Amorites, who were across the Jordan to the east toward the sunrise, from Aroer, which is on the edge of the valley of Arnon, even as far as Mount Sion, that is Hermon, with all the Arabah across the Jordan to the east, even as far as the sea of the Arabah, at the foot of the slopes of Pisgah. Chapter 5. Then Moses summoned all Israel and said to them, Hear, O Israel, the statutes and the judgments which I am speaking today in your hearing, that you may learn them and be careful to do them. Yahweh our God cut a covenant with us at Horeb. Yahweh did not cut this covenant with our fathers, but with us, with all those of us alive here today. Yahweh spoke to you face to face at the mountain from the midst of the fire. I was standing between Yahweh and you at the time to declare to you the word of Yahweh, for you were afraid because of the fire and did not go up the mountain. He said, I am Yahweh your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself an idol, any likeness of what is in heaven above, or on the earth beneath, or in the water under the earth. You shall not worship them or serve them. For I, Yahweh your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me, but showing loving kindness to thousands, to those who love me and keep my commandments. You shall not take the name of Yahweh your God in vain, for Yahweh will not leave him unpunished who takes his name in vain. Observe the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, as Yahweh your God commanded you. 6 days you shall labor and do all your work, but the seventh day is a Sabbath of Yahweh your God. In it you shall not do any work, you or your son or your daughter or your male slave or your female slave or your ox or your donkey or any of your cattle or your sojourner who is within your gates, so that your male slave and your female slave may rest as well as you. You shall remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and Yahweh your God brought you out of there with a mighty hand and with an outstretched arm. Therefore Yahweh your God commanded you to observe the Sabbath day. Honor your father and your mother, as Yahweh your God has commanded you, that your days may be prolonged, and that it may go well with you on the land which Yahweh your God gives you. You shall not murder. You shall not commit adultery. You shall not steal. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife. And you shall not desire your neighbor's house, his field, or his male slave, or his female slave, his ox, or his donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor. These words Yahweh spoke to all your assembly at the mountain from the midst of the fire, of the cloud, and of the dense gloom, with a great voice. And he added no more. He wrote them on 2 tablets of stone and gave them to me. Now it happened that when you heard the voice from the midst of the darkness, while the mountain was burning with fire, you came near to me, all the heads of your tribes and your elders. And you said, Behold, Yahweh our God has shown us his glory and his greatness, and we have heard his voice from the midst of the fire. We have seen today that God speaks with man, yet he lives. So now, then why should we die? For this great fire will consume us. If we hear the voice of Yahweh our God any longer, then we will die. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living God speaking from the midst of the fire, as we have and lived? As for you, go near and hear all that Yahweh our God says. Then speak to us all that Yahweh our God speaks to you, and we will hear and do it. And Yahweh heard the voice of your words when you spoke to me. And Yahweh said to me, I have heard the voice of the words of this people which they have spoken to you. They have done well in all that they have spoken. Oh, that they had such a heart in them, that they would fear me and keep all my commandments all the days, that it may be well with them and with their sons forever. God knew. God always knows. Verse 30, go say to them, return to your tents. But as for you, stand here before me, that I may speak to you all the commandments and the statutes and the judgments which you shall teach them, that they may do them in the land which I give them to possess. So you shall be careful to do just as Yahweh your God has commanded you. You shall not turn aside to the right or to the left. In, in all the way which Yahweh your God has commanded you, you shall walk, that you may live, and that it may be well with you, and that you may prolong your days in the land which you will possess. Chapter 6. Now this is the commandment, the statutes and the judgments which Yahweh your God has commanded me to teach you, that you might do it in the land where you are going over to possess it, so that you and your son and your grandson might fear Yahweh your God, to keep all his statutes and his commandments which I am commanding you all the days of your life, and that your days may be prolonged. O Israel, you shall listen and be careful to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, just as Yahweh, the God of your fathers, has promised you in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahweh is our God, Yahweh is one. You shall love Yahweh your God with all of your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your might. These words which I am commanding you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your sons, and shall speak of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as phylacteries between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And then it will be, when Yahweh your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great and good cities which you did not build, and houses full of good things which you did not fill, and hewn cisterns which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant, and you will eat and be satisfied. Then beware, lest you forget Yahweh who brought you from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. See, even pause there for a second, even in God's promise to give Israel the land, God points out how monergistic this promise is. God did all of the work. He did everything. I mean, then it will be, when Yahweh your God brings you into the land which he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give you great and good cities which you did not build, houses full of good things which you did not fill, hewn cisterns which you did not dig, vineyards and olive trees which you did not plant, and you will eat and be satisfied. Then beware lest you forget Yahweh who brought you from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Verse 13, Yahweh your God you shall fear, and him you shall serve, and by his name you shall swear. You shall not walk after other gods, any of the gods of the peoples who surround you. For Yahweh your God in the midst of you is a jealous God, lest the anger of Yahweh your God be kindled against you, and he destroy you from the face of the earth. You shall not put Yahweh your God to the test, and you, as you tested him at Massah. You should diligently keep the commandments of Yahweh your God, and his testimonies and his statutes, which he has commanded you, and you shall do what is right and good in the sight of Yahweh, that it may be well with you, and that you may go in and possess the good land which Yahweh swore to give your fathers, by driving out all your enemies from before you, as Yahweh has spoken. When your son asks you in time to come, saying, what do the testimonies and the statutes and the judgments mean which Yahweh our God commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt, and Yahweh brought us from Egypt with a strong hand. Moreover, Yahweh showed great and calamitous signs and wonders before our eyes against Egypt, Pharaoh and all his household. But he brought us out from there in order to bring us in, to give us the land which he had sworn to our fathers. So Yahweh commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahweh our God, for our good all our days, and for our survival as it is today. And it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to do all this commandment before Yahweh our God, just as he commanded us. When Yahweh your God brings you into the land where you are entering to possess it, and he clears away many nations before you, the Hittites and the Girgashites and the Amorites and the Canaanites and the Perizzites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, 7 nations more numerous and stronger than you. And when Yahweh your God gives them over before you, and you strike them down, then you shall devote them to destruction. You shall cut no covenant with them, and show no favor to them. Furthermore, you shall not intermarry with them. You shall not give your daughters to their sons, nor shall you take their daughters for your sons, for they will turn your sons away from following me, and they will serve other gods. Then the anger of Yahweh will be kindled against you, and he will quickly destroy you. But thus you shall do to them. You shall tear down their altars, and shatter their sacred pillars, and cut their Asherim in pieces, and burn their graven images with fire. For you are a holy people to Yahweh your God. Yahweh your God has chosen you to be a people for his own treasured possession out of all the peoples who are on the face of the earth. Yahweh did not set his affection on you, nor choose you because you were more in number than any of the peoples, for you were the fewest of all peoples. But because Yahweh loved you and kept the oath which he swore to your fathers, Yahweh brought you out with a strong hand and redeemed you from the house of slavery, from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. You shall know, therefore, that Yahweh your God, he is God, the faithful God, who keeps his covenant and his loving kindness to 1,000 generations with those who love him and keep his commandments, but repays those who hate him to their faces to make them perish. He will not delay with him who hates him. He will repay him face to face. Therefore, you shall keep the commandment and the statutes and the judgments which I am commanding you today to do them. Then it will be, because you listen to these judgments and keep and do them, that Yahweh your God will keep with you his covenant and his loving kindness, which he swore to your fathers. And he will love you and bless you and multiply you. He will also bless the fruit of your womb and the fruit of your ground, your grain and your new wine and your oil, the increase of your herd and the young of your flock and the land which he swore to your fathers to give you. You shall be blessed above all peoples. There will be no male or female barren among you or among your cattle. And Yahweh will take away from you all sickness, and he will not put on you any of the harmful diseases of Egypt, which you have known, but he will give them to all who hate you. And you shall consume all the peoples whom Yahweh your God will give over to you. Your eye shall not pity them, nor shall you serve their gods, for that would be a snare to you. If you should say in your heart, these nations are more numerous than I, how can I dispossess them? You shall not be afraid of them. You shall well remember what Yahweh your God did to Pharaoh and to all of Egypt. The great trials which your eyes saw, and the signs and the wonders, and the mighty hand and the outstretched arm by which Yahweh your God brought you out, so shall Yahweh your God do to all the peoples of whom you are afraid. Moreover, Yahweh your God will send the hornet against them until those who remain and hide themselves from you perish. You shall not dread them, for Yahweh your God is in your midst, and a great and fearsome God. And Yahweh your God will clear away these nations before you little by little. You will not be able to put an end to them quickly, lest the wild beasts become too numerous for you. I mean, but Yahweh your God will give them over before you and will throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed, and he will give their kings into your hand, so that you will make their name perish from under heaven. No man will be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them. The graven images of their gods you are to burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for yourself, lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to Yahweh your God. And you shall not bring an abomination into your house and become devoted to destruction like it. You shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is devoted to destruction. All of these great promises of God, Israel forsook. God made all of these wonderful promises, and Israel turned their back on God. And as I'm reading this, I don't know for how I won't say the umpteenth time, but the many times I've read through this, it hits me today that this is exactly what people do when they're offered Christ, when they're offered the gospel of Jesus Christ, when they're given the great promise of the forgiveness of their sin, reconciliation to God, and eternal life with him in heaven. And they turn their back and they say no. Or they give some kind of tacit agreement because they're thinking only temporally that, life is automatically going to get better. And then when it doesn't go like they want it, well, then they're one of the three bad soils that Jesus talks about in the parable, and they turn away. What Israel did when God demonstrably showed them all of these things, I mean, before their eyes. Look, we can believe all of it because God has given it to us in his word. Yes, it is no less true, no less remarkable, no less amazing because we're reading it in his book. But the people of Israel saw it with their eyes, and they still rejected him. And it reminds me of the untold number of people to whom I proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ, the great promises of God. Turn to him and be saved. Turn to him and not go to hell. Turn to him. Be reconciled. Turn to him. Be adopted as a child. Turn to him. Have your sins forgiven. Turn to him and have newness of life now and forever. And they reject him. And then I think how often I take for granted the miraculous, loving grace of God in my own life. Now being the benefactor of all of these eternal promises because of Christ. Well, grace is irresistible in the sense that all to whom God is actually drawing to himself will come. And that is the good news. They will come. They will repent and they will believe. God's grace is irresistible. And even within the nation of Israel who rejected God, God had his remnant then. God had his people then. God had those like Abraham all through the generations who were indeed faithful to God and looked forward to the Messiah. Yeah, I think of the two in the temple when Joseph and Mary brought Jesus for dedication. They had lived faithful lives for decades and decades and decades, waiting for this day. And they saw the baby and they held the baby and worshiped God because all their life they believed the promises. They believed by faith. And God's grace, God's spirit is indeed irresistible. When God draws a person, that person will come. So there's the hope in all of that. Verse 23 of chapter 7, but Yahweh your God will give them over before you and will throw them into great confusion until they are destroyed, and he will give their kings into your hand, so that you will make their name perish from under heaven. No man will be able to stand before you until you have destroyed them. The graven images of their gods you are to burn with fire. You shall not covet the silver or the gold that is on them, nor take it for yourselves, lest you be snared by it, for it is an abomination to Yahweh your God. And you shall not bring an abomination into your house and become devoted to destruction like it. You shall utterly detest it, and you shall utterly abhor it, for it is devoted to destruction. Chapter 8. The entire commandment that I am commanding you today, you shall be careful to do, that you may live and multiply and go in and possess the land which Yahweh swore to give to your fathers. And you shall remember all the way which Yahweh your God has led you in the wilderness these 40 years, that he might humble you, testing you to know what is in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not. And he humbled you and let you be hungry and fed you with manna, which you did not know, nor did your fathers know, that he might make you know that man does not live by bread alone, but by everything that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh. Your clothing did not wear out on you, nor did your foot swell these 40 years. Thus you shall know in your heart that Yahweh your God was disciplining you just as a man disciplines his son. So you shall keep the commandments of Yahweh your God to walk in his ways, and to fear him. For Yahweh your God is bringing you into a good land, a land of brooks of water, of fountains and springs flowing forth in valleys and hills, a land of wheat and barley, of vines and fig trees and pomegranates, a land of olive oil and honey, a land where you will eat food without scarcity, in which you will not lack anything, a land whose stones are iron, and out of whose hills you can dig copper. And so you will eat and be satisfied, and you shall bless Yahweh your God for the good land which he has given you. Beware lest you forget Yahweh your God by not keeping his commandments and his judgments and his statutes, which I am commanding you today. Lest you eat and are satisfied and build good houses and live in them, and your herds and your flocks multiply, and your silver and gold multiply, and all that you have multiplies, and your heart becomes lifted up, and you forget Yahweh your God, who brought you out from the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. He led you through the great and fearsome wilderness, with its fiery serpents and scorpions and thirsty ground, which there was where there was no water. He brought water for you out of the rock of flint. In the wilderness, he fed you manna which your fathers did not know, that he might humble you and that he might test you to do good for you in the end. Lest you say in your heart, my power and the might of my hand made me this wealth. But you shall remember Yahweh your God, for it is he who is giving you power to make wealth, that he may confirm his covenant which he swore to your fathers as it is this day. Now it will be, if you ever forget Yahweh your God and walk after other gods and serve them and worship them, I testify against you today that you will surely perish. Like the nations that Yahweh makes to perish before you, so you shall perish, because you would not listen to the voice of Yahweh your God. Chapter 9. Hear, O Israel, you are crossing over the Jordan today to go into dispossessed nations greater and mightier than you, great cities fortified to heaven, a people great and tall, the sons of the Anakim, whom you know and of whom you have heard it said, who can stand before the sons of Anak? You shall know today that it is Yahweh your God who is crossing over before you as a consuming fire. You will destroy them, and he will subdue them before you, so that you may possess them and make them perish quickly, just as Yahweh has spoken to you. Do not say in your heart, when Yahweh your God has driven them out before you, saying, because of my righteousness Yahweh has brought me in to possess this land. But it is because of the wickedness of these nations that Yahweh is dispossessing them before you. It is not for your righteousness or for your uprightness of your heart that you are going to possess their land, but it is because of the wickedness of these nations that Yahweh your God is dispossessing them before you, in order to confirm the oath which Yahweh swore to your fathers, to Abraham and to Isaac and to Jacob. So you shall know it is not because of your righteousness that Yahweh your God is giving you this good land to possess, for you are a stiff necked people. Remember, do not forget how you provoked Yahweh your God to wrath in the wilderness. From the day that you went out of the land of Egypt until you came to this place, you have been rebellious against Yahweh. Even at Horeb, you provoked Yahweh to wrath, and Yahweh was so angry with you that he would have destroyed you. When I went up to the mountain to receive the tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant which Yahweh had cut with you, then I remained on the mountain 40 days and nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water. And Yahweh gave me the 2 tablets of stone written by the finger of God, and on them were all the words which Yahweh had spoken with you at the mountain from the midst of the fire on the day of the assembly. Now it happened at the end of 40 days and nights that Yahweh gave me the 2 tablets of stone, the tablets of the covenant. Then Yahweh said to me, arise, go down from here quickly, for your people, whom you brought out of Egypt, have acted corruptly. They have quickly turned aside from the way which I commanded them. They have made a molten image for themselves. Yahweh spoke further to me, saying, I have seen this people, and indeed they are a stiff-necked people. Have a good day, sweetheart. Love you too. Let me alone, that I may destroy them and blot out their name from under heaven, and I will make of you a nation mightier and more numerous than they. So I turned and came down from the mountain, while the mountain was burning with fire, and the 2 tablets of the covenant were in my 2 hands. And I saw that you had indeed sinned against Yahweh your God. You had made for yourselves a molten calf. You had turned aside quickly from the way which Yahweh had commanded you. And I took hold of the 2 tablets and threw them from my hands and shattered them before your eyes. And I fell down before Yahweh as at the first 40 days and nights. I neither ate bread nor drank water, because all your sin which you had committed in doing what was evil in the sight of Yahweh to provoke him to anger. For I was afraid of the anger and the wrath from which Yahweh was, and the wrath with which Yahweh was provoked against you, in order to destroy you. But Yahweh listened to me that time also. And Yahweh was angry enough with Aaron to destroy him, so I also prayed for Aaron at the same time. Now I took your sinful thing, the calf which you had made, and burned it with fire, and crushed it, grinding it very small, and until it was as fine as dust. And I threw its dust in the brook that came down from the mountain. Again, at Taberah, and at Massa, and at Kibroth Hataava, you provoked Yahweh to wrath. When Yahweh sent you from Kadesh Barnea, saying, go up and possess the land which I have given you, then you rebelled against the command of Yahweh your God. You did not believe him, and you did not listen to his voice. You have been rebellious against Yahweh from the day I knew you. So I fell down before Yahweh the 40 days and 40 nights, which I did because Yahweh had said he would destroy you. And I prayed to Yahweh and said, O Lord Yahweh, do not destroy your people, even your inheritance, whom you have redeemed through your greatness. whom you have brought out of Egypt with a strong hand. Remember your servants, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Do not look at the stiff neck of this people, or at their wickedness or their sin, lest the land which you brought us say, I'm sorry, lest the land from which you brought us say, because Yahweh was not able to bring them into the land which he had promised them, and because he hated them, he has brought them out to put them to death in the wilderness. Yet they are your people, even your inheritance, whom you have brought out by your great power and your outstretched arm. Chapter 10. At that time, Yahweh said to me, carve out for yourselves 2 tablets of stone, like the former ones, and come up to me on the mountain and make an ark of wood for yourself. And I will write on the tablets the words that were on the former tablets, which you shattered, and you shall put them in the ark. So I made an ark of acacia wood and carved out 2 tablets of stone, like the former ones, and went up on the mountain with the 2 tablets in mind. And he wrote on the tablets, like the former writing, the 10 commandments which Yahweh had spoken to you on the mountain from the midst of the fire on the day of the assembly, and Yahweh gave them to me. Then I turned and came down from the mountain and put the tablets in the ark which I had made, and there they are, as Yahweh commanded me. Now the sons of Israel set out from Beeroth Bene Jaakan to Mosra. Then Aaron died, and there he was buried, and Eleazar his son ministered as priest in his place. Honey, are you leaving? How much time do I have, sweetie? Can you give me like an estimate in minutes? 5 minutes, okay. From there, verse 7. From there they set out to Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah, and from Gudgodah to Jotbathah, a land of brooks of water. At that time, Yahweh set apart the tribe of Levi to carry the ark of the covenant of Yahweh, to stand before Yahweh to minister for him, and to bless in his name, to this day. Therefore, Levi does not have a portion or inheritance with his brothers. Yahweh is his inheritance, just as Yahweh your God spoke to him. I, moreover, stayed on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights, like the first time, and Yahweh listened to me that time also. Yahweh was not willing to destroy you. Then Yahweh said to me, arise, go on your journey ahead of the people, that they may go in and possess the land which I swore to their fathers to give them. So now, Israel, what does Yahweh your God ask from you? But to fear Yahweh your God, and to walk in all his ways, and love him, and to serve Yahweh your God with all of your heart, with all your soul, and to keep the commandments of Yahweh and his statutes, which I am commanding you today for your good. Behold, to Yahweh your God belong heaven and the highest heavens, the earth, and all that is in it. Yet on your fathers did Yahweh set his affection to love them, and he chose their seed after them, even you above all peoples, as it is this day. So circumcise your heart and stiffen your neck no longer. For Yahweh your God is the God of gods and the Lord. For Yahweh your God is the God of gods and the Lord of lords, the great, the mighty, and the fearsome God who does not show partiality nor take a bribe. He executes justice for the orphan and the widow, and shows love for the sojourner by giving him food and clothing. So show love for the sojourner, for you were sojourners in the land of Egypt. Yahweh your God, you shall fear him, you shall serve him, you shall serve, and to him you shall cling, and by his name you shall swear. He is your praise, and he is your God, who has done these great and fearsome things for you, which your eyes have seen. Your fathers went down to Egypt, 70 persons in all, and now Yahweh your God has made you as numerous as the stars of heaven. Chapter 11. You shall therefore love Yahweh your God and keep his charge, his statutes, his judgments, and his commandments all your days. So know this day that I am not speaking with your sons who have not known and who have not seen the discipline of Yahweh your God, his greatness, his strong hand, and his outstretched arm, and his signs and his works, which he did in the midst of Egypt, to Pharaoh the king of Egypt, and to all his land, and what he did to Egypt's army and to its horses and its chariots, when he made the water of the Red Sea to engulf them while they were pursuing you, and Yahweh made them perish utterly, and what he did to you in the wilderness until you came to this place, and what he did to Dathan and Abiram and the sons of Eliab, the son of Reuben, when the earth opened its mouth and swallowed them, their households, their tents, and every living thing that followed them among all Israel. but your own eyes have seen all the great work of Yahweh which he did. You shall therefore keep every commandment which I am commanding you today, so that you may be strong and go in and possess the land in which you are about to cross to possess it, so that you may prolong your days on the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give to them and to their seed, a land flowing with milk and honey. For the land into which you are entering to possess it is not like the land of Egypt from which you came out, where you used to sow your seed and water it with your foot like a vegetable garden. But the land into which you are about to cross to possess it, a land of hills and valleys, drinks water from the rain of heaven, a land for which Yahweh your God cares. The eyes of Yahweh your God are always on it, from the beginning even to the end of the year. And it will be that if you listen obediently to my commandments, which I am commanding you today, to love Yahweh your God and to serve him with all your heart and all your soul, that I, Yahweh, will give the rain for your land in its season, the early and late rains, that you may gather in your grain and your new wine and your oil. And I will give grass in your fields for your cattle, and you will eat and be satisfied. Beware lest your hearts be deceived, and you turn away and serve other gods and worship them. And the anger of Yahweh will be kindled against you, and he will shut up the heavens so that there will be no rain on the ground, and the ground will not yield its fruit, and you will perish quickly from the good land which Yahweh is giving you. You shall enter. You shall therefore place these words of mine on your heart and on your soul, and you shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as phylacteries between your eyes. And you shall teach them to your sons, speaking of them when you sit in your house and when you walk along the road, and when you lie down and when you rise up. And you shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates, so that your days and the days of your sons may be multiplied on the land which Yahweh swore to your fathers to give them, as long as the heavens remain above the earth. For if you are careful to keep this entire commandment, which I am commanding you to do, to love Yahweh your God, to walk in all his ways, and to cling to him, then Yahweh will dispossess all these nations from before you, and you will dispossess nations greater and mightier than you. Every place on which the sole of your foot treads shall be yours. Your border will be from the wilderness of Lebanon, and from the river Euphrates, as far as the western sea. No man will be able to stand before you. Yahweh your God will put the dread of you and the fear of you on all the land on which you set foot, as he spoke to you. See, I am setting before you today a blessing and a curse. The blessing, if you listen to the commandments of Yahweh your God, which I am commanding you today, and the curse, if you do not listen to the commandments of Yahweh your God, but turn aside from the way which I am commanding you today, by walking after other gods which you have not known. And it will be, when Yahweh your God brings you into the land where you are entering to possess it, that you shall set the blessing on Mount Gerizim and the curse on Mount Ebal. Are they not across the Jordan, west of the way toward the sunset, in the land of the Canaanites, who live in the Arabah, opposite Gilgal, beside the oaks of Moreh? For you are about to cross the Jordan to go in to possess the land which Yahweh your God is giving you, and you shall possess it and live in it. And you shall be careful to do all the statutes and the judgments which I am setting before you today. All right. The lovely Mrs. Miano is waiting patiently. We are going to stop there. That was 11 chapters again today. Praise God. Lord willing, we will pick up tomorrow morning at our regular time in Deuteronomy chapter 12. Love you guys. Got to run. Hope you have a blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning for another edition of Bible Reading Fellowship. Have a great day. Bye-bye.